here and talking with you guys about AI and ML. I will try not to alphabet soup too much on you without introducing the words first. But I'm really passionate about machine learning and artificial intelligence, and all of the changes that are going on right now in the world, like with the chat GPTs and things like that, are super fun and exciting. So I'm really happy to be here talking with you today. So as we kick things off, I really like to always start with definitions. And one of the key definitions I think we need to hit on is, what is the difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning? I was in a presentation a few years ago, back when I worked at 3M, and we had a professor come and talk to us about machine learning. And he said that the difference is machine learning is written in Python, which is a programming language, and AI is written in PowerPoints. That was kind of like a little bit of a joke, obviously, but the difference that I like to kind of draw out here is that machine learning is really like, we're developing something. We're developing a model based on data that we upload. Whereas artificial intelligence is a little bit higher level. It's an umbrella term that refers to all of the strategies and techniques that you can use to apply to computers to make them seem more human-like. So again, like kind of a difference is machine learning might be able to look at images and maybe detect cancer in images or something like that. So it has kind of a bit of a narrow thing that it can do, as opposed to artificial intelligence, which is a little bit more broad. And your smart assistants, like I don't want to say the A word because I forgot to turn her off. Siri, your Roombas that maybe vacuum in your room, those sort of things. Oh, Siri heard me. Cancel. So they're listening. But those smarter things, those are kind of the artificial intelligence, as opposed to machine learning, which is a little bit more narrow. And so now today we also have all of this other new stuff coming out. I'm sure everyone watching this has heard of ChatGPT and those foundation models, large language models, all of those new things that are kind of coming out. We call those generative AI. So Gen AI for short is how we call it, at least at AWS. And I think that's a pretty common term. And so this is artificial intelligence. So remember, a little bit higher level that can really create content for you. So we can do text to text. And so you can ask the ChatGPT or your model of choice. I like Claude personally, but you can ask it to develop something for you. And I have a few examples of that coming up soon. So you can do text to text. You can do image generation, which is really exciting for like marketing and things like that. And then foundation models are really what are powering Gen AI. So again, now this is a model, so it's a little bit more specific, but this is the foundation models are trained on very, very large numbers of data sets. So I used one in an old project that I talked about a few presentations ago, called OFA, and that was trained on like 30 million images, and it would do image to captioning automatically for you. It's a really cool model that could do that. And then large language models are really focused on natural language processing. So that is, large language models are a subset of the foundation models. A cool thing about the foundation models is it gives you this foundation that you can start with, and then kind of fine-tune train your own model to do exactly what you want it to do. So it kind of gets you going more quickly than developing your model from scratch. So here's a couple of examples that I think are pretty cool. This one of me there, I uploaded that image and I told this model to make me look cool. So this is me looking cool. Darker lipstick.
I will say that looks pretty cool.
I look cool. Exactly. I look cooler like that. So it worked. And then one that I thought was kind of interesting, and I've kept this as a woman in tech. This other picture over here, I told Stable Diffusion, which is another one of these text to image, is usually the way that it goes. It can also do image to image, like you see over there. But I asked a Stable Diffusion model to generate an image of happy developers. And I kept this because I think that it's super interesting what these developers look like. I don't see myself there. And I think that's kind of one of those cautionary tales, right? Don't always trust everything that's coming out of these models. They sometimes hallucinate, give you bad information. Some of the images that might be created aren't truly representative of everyone. That's 3 40-year-old white guys with beards. All developers don't actually look like that. Surprise, I'm a developer too. So just one of those kind of cautionary tales that I think is important to keep there. Another thing I did,
one quick question I had. Have you seen any growth on that front? I know you said this was kind of an older picture that you created. Have you seen any change in those outputs, or in the, like, have you done any testing with that to see if like things are getting better on that front?
I should do that. I should do that again on this Stable Diffusion model and see if maybe at least different types of guys come out.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that, if it changes or if it progresses, because our hopes are that the more people we get using these things and the more it's training on, like, it'll get better at not being that bias.
Exactly. And a lot of these models today have an opportunity, like if you play with Claude as an example, it has an opportunity for you to give it a thumbs up or thumbs down, depending on the result that you get back, so you can help train. So if I were to get this from one of my things that I can a model that I can give feedback on, I might tell it, I don't like this. It is not inclusive, and kind of give it that note. And then that goes in to retrain your model. And to your point, it can get better. We do have to help it though. Yeah.
Sorry for that caveat.
No, it's important to note. We can all help. So then here on this next slide, I did not do this. I asked a large language model, I believe this is Titan, which is the AWS large language model, to create a poem for me. And so I gave it a few words. I gave it artificial intelligence, machine learning, and girls in tech, I think were the words that I told it to create a poem for me. And so I thought this one was pretty good. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, advancing society, Gen AI, dancing through data, unlocking mystery, female coders typing away, writing algorithms all day, creating the future with innovation, leading the way. And of course, you can read this all for yourself, but this was created for me in like 20 or 30 seconds. And so when you're looking for, something to kind of get started, you could use a ChatGPT or other large language model to help you get started with things. Maybe you're trying to send an email to your teacher and you're like, what do I say here? You could ask ChatGPT or whatever language. I like Claude. You could ask it to kind of help you get started with that. So also like marketing type of things, give me a summary of, this event and things like that. Different ways to leverage these type of models to help you do your job better, get through the work that you need to do a little bit more quickly. And always check it for hallucinations and things that you don't feel are quite right. So then kind of coming back to the core of what we're talking about, I did want to make sure to touch on the Gen AI stuff because it's so fun right now. But whenever we're talking about AI and machine learning, here are some of these common use cases that we see across industries at AWS and multiple places. So this thing about self-driving cars, autonomous driving, my car can help me stay in the lanes. So that's a pretty nice feature. It's not full on AI, but it is a model that helps my car drive better. So it's kind of the differences there. We have lots of different computer vision algorithms and models that you can leverage. I really like computer vision in general. I think it's really fascinating. You can do different things to kind of enhance your customer experience. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the very end, but different things like chatbots, or most of you on the call probably don't have to call and like talk to support for things, but oftentimes the first line of support these days, it's becoming a chatbot. So different things like that can help people do their job more easily, just make it a little bit easier on people to get their work done. So when it comes to how do we really get started here, like how do we learn about data science? And data science is really like the field that encompasses machine learning and AI. It's a relatively new field and it advances really quickly all the time. So it's important to kind of stay up to date on that sort of thing. One is the massively online courses in universities. So I sometimes will take classes from Coursera and oh, there's another one that I use sometimes too, but I will find a class that's something that I'm kind of interested in. Like I took a class on TinyML. So how do we develop a machine learning model that is small enough to then deploy to a small device like a microprocessor? You don't have all of the processing power that you have with the cloud in that case. It's a small processor, so your model needs to be small. So anyways, I took a class on that, and it was really interesting on different approaches for keeping that a bit smaller. You can also and should read blog posts towards data science. There's a lot of good stuff on Medium. We have good blogs on AWS blogs as well. You guys probably are not yet working, but there is just on the job training. Like if you come up with an idea, just like go and try to implement that as you're doing today and throughout this course. You are coming up with these ideas and you have to implement this to get it to work. So that on the job training and different hackathons that you could potentially participate in, that's hands-on training, and that's probably the most valuable. And then Jupyter IDEs. And so Jupyter is that's kind of like a notebook for you to develop your Python code in. So you could go find other people's Jupyter notebooks, whether that's like on GitHub or just sharing that with your friends. And then like seeing that code and maybe modifying it just a little bit and seeing what happens. That's one of those really great ways to figure out what's actually going on there. So from AWS specifically, we do have something called Stagemaker Studio Lab. And so this is something that's come out pretty recently. And what we're trying to do here is put machine learning in the hands of everyone. So this is a free environment that you can use. You can go and sign up to use this. Just quick little Google of Stagemaker Studio Lab, and you should get to the right spot. If you have an edu email address, like a .edu, then you will be able to get in here, no problem. Otherwise, there might be a little bit of a waiting period, maybe a activation code or something like that. If you need any of those sorts of things, reach out to Valerie, who can reach out to me, and we will get you going on those sort of things. There's always look in GitHub. GitHub is like one of the best libraries of code that ever exists. So definitely check out GitHub. And there's very few limitations here, really. Like there is a limitation of how much data, how much your the size of your work projects can take up and how many compute hours you get overall. But really what we're trying to do here is give people the opportunity to go in and play with machine learning and a Stagemaker Studio Lab and get in there and really learn something. So this is a little bit of a repeat it's enough of a repeat from the last slide that I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. Just go sign up for it. It is a free way that you can get going with machine learning. This is the part where it's talking a little bit more about that referral code. I'm not sure if that is still there or not. You may not need it if you have that .edu type of email address. But if you do run into any issues, like I said, just kind of reach out and we'll figure out how to get you access to that. And then once you do get in there, this is a little snapshot of what it looks like in Stagemaker Studio Lab. So you have your terminal, like your command line that maybe you have used before. It can feel scary, but also it feels like very empowering whenever you're using that command line. Just kind of, it feels like the Matrix. You can write in a little code and then all this stuff happens. We also have the notebook, like different notebooks that you might be used to using, like the Jupyter notebooks. And so you can just kind of hop in there and it should feel kind of familiar to what you may have done locally on your machine if you've done any of that before. So I did want to drop in just one quick little customer quote, which is also a nice segue to one of my next slides. Hugging Face is super cool. We're going to talk about that in just one second. But Hugging Face, their goal is to democratize machine learning. So that really means that they're trying to put machine learning in the hands of more people, just like the mission, let's say, of Stagemaker Studio Labs. So it is a really powerful tool, Stagemaker Studio Labs, as well as Hugging Face. I sometimes talk about Hugging Face as like the GitHub repo for machine learning models. So I follow the founders of Hugging Face on LinkedIn. Always like to see what they're posting, and I will go in there and just it's a way where you can go in and start to just play with models in a little sandbox environment without having to develop anything. So it's a bit like that foundation model sort of things. And some of those foundation models are stored in Hugging Face. Which is nice. It's a way that you can experiment with something that we know works and kind of get going more quickly on your applications. So again, more things to help you get going more quickly as you're getting started. You can find data, models, and code, all open source. Like you can find this stuff online to help you get going more quickly. So I use Kaggle a lot of times for my data sets. Like if I'm trying to just come up with a little prototype type of a project, you can go to Kaggle and you can get all sorts of data sets there. One of them that I was looking at more recently was imports and exports of products through the United States. And so it had like 10 years of this data that you can go and download, and then you can use that data to feed into your model training. Mentioned Hugging Face already. So many different models there. They come with like model cards that gives you a little summary of what those models do. And also GitHub. There's so much code in GitHub. You can just go in there and explore. We have at AWS, we have, I guess it's an organization or a team or something within there called AWS-samples. So you can go there and look to see all kinds of different things that we've kind of developed internally along with the community to kind of, again, help you get going more quickly using AWS services, and plenty of other customers or companies do this as well. They have like their own group of repositories where you can go and get code. So another thing,
sorry, I'm jumping in again. I have one question for you on that front.
Yeah.
So if our students are using some of these resources to build their own applications, and they're using some of that data, is because they're all open source, like that shouldn't be a conflict as long as they're giving attribution as needed and that kind of thing, right?
Exactly. It's all about that attribution thing. All of the different code, like if you're taking like someone's personal code, they may say like, you should reference me back. Like if you take some of my code, just put like, I started with Kandyce's code, and that's probably sufficient for most people. Some of the more mature code bases that maybe come out from like companies like Smart Things, I think has their code in GitHub. So if you were to use Smart Things, they have a lot of good IoT code. Then they probably have a more I don't know, let's say intense license. But generally, it really is all about that attribution sort of thing. So just a quick little one-liner saying, I got this code from XYZ. Here's the repo that I cloned, and you're good to go that way. But it is important to check the licenses.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Right. So here talking a little bit about Jumpstart. So Amazon SageMaker Jumpstart is like, it's almost like Hugging Face a little bit. It is a machine learning model hub with a bunch of different foundation models, other built-in algorithms that are commonly used, and even just fully pre-built solutions that you can get access to in your SageMaker Studio environment with just a few different clicks. So you can kind of go through and look for what you are interested in. So let's say you want to develop a chatbot AI type of thing. You can search that there in SageMaker Studio Jumpstart, and then you'll be able to find a solution that does that for you. And so you click a couple of buttons, and then you can deploy it, meaning it is then ready for you to use like external or publicly instead of like outside of just your notebook. And what is nice is with a lot of these Jumpstart models, it gives you the code so you can go and look at it. So again, I think that is so powerful. Just like take down that code and start looking at it, understand what the different lines of code actually do. Maybe you need to change it just a little bit so you can experiment and figure those things out. But getting access to the code is I think probably the coolest part of the Jumpstart models, just kind of going in there. It's really easy to deploy stuff and get it ready to go, but also like you can learn a whole lot by checking out the code that you get with those models. So here's just a laundry list of these foundation models that we have available within Jumpstart. So you'll see here we have AI21 Labs, and so there's a ton of different ones there. You can see that there's models as well as tasks. And so the models are the specific things, and then the tasks below are a little bit more of like, what is it doing? So you can see under AI21 Labs, you can have like a summarization task. So say you have like a really long paper that you're reading as background for what you're trying to build. You can send that paper text or point this model to that paper, and then it can summarize it for you so you don't have to read the whole paper. So I think that's one of those really cool tasks that these foundation models can do. You'll see Hugging Face listed here. Stability AI is the company, I guess, that has Stable Diffusion, that model that I was showing you before where we had like image to image sort of things. So a lot of these foundation models are available from Jumpstart to help you get going really quickly. And then also, as you're continuing to learn, here are a few of the AWS Heroes, is what we call them. So we call them heroes. They're community, people who work in the community, like the developer community. They're not AWS employees. And you can go and check them out and see what they are talking about. What do they build, and learn from them. They often have like videos that you can follow, like as little lessons. And a quick plug for Keisha in general. I don't think she works at A Cloud Guru anymore. She might. But she is amazing. She is so smart. We actually had her, another thing that I do is called AWS She Builds Tech Skills. And as part of that, we'll bring in women developers and talk to them about what do they do in their day-to-day life. And Keisha was on our She Builds episode. She was on 2 episodes talking about something that she built that was like, I kind of think it was a crime predictor or something like that. And so she took a bunch of data from crime in London and mapped it over with map data and was able to kind of have a prediction of where crime might occur. And then you can give that to the police department so that you could then put more police officers on those streets, as an example. So Keisha, so smart, so approachable. And I would definitely recommend you can find whatever you can find from Keisha, you should. I think that her handle is like Rockstar Keisha or something like that. You can find her in a lot of different places. And then kind of to wrap things up, like we talked a lot about Gen AI, we talked about machine learning and like how you can build your own models. And then I also wanted to kind of close it out with just mentioning a couple of these AI services from AWS. Especially ones that might be relevant to some of the projects that you guys are working on this year. So Amazon Recognition, I think, is a really cool one. You'll see this is linked here, so if we can share out the slides later, but this will take you to the Recognition, like we'll call it the homepage, and it talks about a lot of the different things that you can do with Recognition. It's a computer vision AI service. And so you can have it look at images, like you could have it look at videos or still images, and it can actually tell you, it can recognize celebrities for one. It can recognize objects that are in the picture, and it can also do a little bit of like I don't think it's called sentiment analysis, but if it looks at a face, it can tell if that person is happy or sad based on their facial expression. So there's a lot of cool stuff that Recognition can do for you.
Kandyce, was that the model that you used for the app that you talked about in our previous conversation, where it was recognizing you and your friends in pictures?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
And so we uploaded one picture of us, and my hair changed and all kinds of things, and it was
Right.
still able to recognize us. And then my friends actually have built on that prototype that I showed a few times ago, and
Yeah.
now it's doing video. It's doing captioning for video
Awesome.
instead of just images. And what they did for that is they used Amazon recognition for video to kind of scan through it and recognize these objects. And then it took the list of objects and maybe people that it recognized and sent that over to a large language model, which then created sentences and like full descriptions of what was happening in that
Nice.
video. So
So you could use that for like the metadata and
yes,
for like site readers and that kind of thing.
exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
because recognition does give you just like a list of things that it recognizes that it can identify in the image or video, and so it's not like a natural language. So then
Yeah.
that's where your big LLM comes into play, and it can
Right.
put that together for you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh huh. And then another one that I wanted to talk about is called Amazon Connect. And so this one is really neat too. You could use it for like call centers. So I was talking before about when you call, I had to change my insurance not too long ago. And so I called the insurance and I am talking to a robot type of thing. With Connect, you can do those sort of things. You can have smart chat bots, just hard to say for some reason, smart chat bots. You can also do live call analysis. And so if you have Connect working in your system, it can connect right into the phone system that is being used at those different places. You could actually have call analysis where, let's say a customer calls in and they're really mad. You can have some sentiment analysis going on right away and then maybe ping the boss and say, we have a caller who is upset. Like, here's what's happening right now, kind of getting them up to speed on how maybe they could jump in and help that customer have a better experience overall. So Amazon Connect is a really cool AI service that's built on other AI services that we have, including Lex, which is for chatbots. Comprehend is another AWS service that does the sentiment analysis piece of it. We have things that can take audio and turn those into text, so audio to text automatically. So Connect brings together a lot of those things into one AI solution that large customers can deploy into their ecosystem, and just make it a little bit easier for their employees to do their job. So those were the main things that I kind of wanted to go through. A little bit of machine learning, how you can get started with it, some cool AI services that we have, and kind of encourage you to get started on your own, whether that is locally doing some Python notebooks, or within AWS using some Stagemaker Studio Labs, or whatever might be interesting to you. So I hope you learned something today.
Awesome. Well, I did. So thank
Yeah.
you for that. And like you said, we will share a link to the slide deck so that you can get links to that. And then Kandyce, are you active on social media at all? Can they connect with you at all if
Yeah,
they want to talk directly to you?
absolutely. I'm only on LinkedIn. I'm not that cool. But
Well,
you
that
can find,
picture said different. So
I should update my LinkedIn picture.
yes, yes.
But yeah, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. And it's just like linkedin.com/Kandyce-Bohannon. I've got a fairly unique name,
Right.
so you can find me.
Awesome.
LinkedIn is the best place. I'd also recommend looking at those She Builds videos that
Yeah.
we have available on YouTube. So
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for being here today and always such a great information hub for us. So
great.
have a great day and thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. It was fun.